So we're here once again to do another car that we're just completing, and we're preparing to deliver it. It's a car that we've worked on for quite a long time, and it's probably the wildest, most custom thing that we've done. I know it doesn't have flames and it doesn't look like, you know, a Willys with the blower sticking out of the hood, but there's a lot of custom touches that are done to this car. It's done from a rendering that Eric Brockmeyer did for us. And we worked close together with the people that own it, particularly Brenda. Brenda's the cool thing about this car, everything we do has a story. It's the car you had when you were in high school. It's the car your brother had. It's the car your dad had. Well, this is the car that Brenda's mom and dad had. So when it was new. So she's had it all of her life. She inherited it when they passed away. And David engaged us to do something really trick with this car. And we've kind of taken it to another level. I mean, we went trick and then beyond. So we'll go through this car line by line, but it's always cool to have a story like that. Brenda has recollections of cruising on Woodward, literally cruising on Woodward with her mom, Flo. And the car's going to be shipped back to Michigan, and I'm sure it's going to be cruising down Woodward in the very near future. The car's a 69 Fairlane. From where you're sitting and looking at the car right now, it doesn't really look like a 69 Fairlane. In fact, there's a lot of little subtle things that have been changed on the car that we thought made it look better. The interior of the car, we retained a lot of the original look and feel in the car, but we made it more comfortable to drive. We made it more comfortable to sit in. Of course, pretty much everything we do these days is Art Morrison chassis, and that's what this is. This is a straight axle Morrison chassis. What was done with this car, and it wasn't necessarily the easiest thing to do, was the Ford Fairlane was originally created as a unit body car. This is now a body on frame car, which was a little bit challenging to do, but it really tied the car together again and gave us an opportunity to maximize the Morrison stuff. When we started the project, of course, we went the route of let's do a blown Coyote, or let's do something with a Coyote. Everybody's doing something with a Coyote. And it's a good thing to do. They wanted to stay conventional. So there's nothing more conventional than a 500 plus cubic inch big block board. The engine, we'll talk about that a little bit more. It is fuel injected. It's got some major oiling changes. It's about 650 horsepower. And I think everybody will like what we do as far as bringing Wild back into the original form. Like I've talked about in the past, you know, we like things to still look like it was before. This one's been tweaked a lot, but there's still a lot of things that bring it back to being the Ford roots, and you'll see that under the hood. You'll see that inside the car as we go through it. So let's talk about the grille in the front of the car, because it's basically all been fabricated, every bit of it. We did take the original grille and modify both the upper and lower sections, but then we fabricated the bumpers and we fabricated the little inserts that you see here. These are not just faux. This is actually a functioning air intake that's cooling an engine oil cooler on this side and a transmission cooler on the other. This is just additional air that we wanted to pick up down low to force through the CNR radiator and help cool the air conditioning in this monstrosity engine. The headlights, you can see the yellow ring in the headlight. That's actually the turn signal. We did away with the thing that Ford originally did here. The bumpers have been pulled in. The bumpers have been changed radically. The front of the hood's been changed radically. The front of the fenders have been changed radically. But we didn't put a big hood scoop on it. We wanted it to actually function. And the other thing that you won't see is the bottom of the hood has become functional right here. And what we're doing is we're picking up this high pressure and we're flushing the engine. We're flushing the engine bay area to take as much heat out of it as we can. And in the cowl area, you'll see a depression as we go through the car. And that's acting, I know it's a high pressure area, but it's also acting as a vent to get as much heat out of the car as you can. This is a lot of engine. It's a small engine compartment, relatively speaking. We wanted to do as much as we could to get it to cool off. This piece down here has been all fabricated. It's as low as we wanted to go. We originally talked about doing something even lower, but it's practical right now, and it's not likely to get knocked off on a curb stop, because this car is going to be driven. It's going to be used. It's not just a trailer queen. So under the hood, again, back to what I was saying, this is what I was talking about with it looking original. We used a set of Ford valve covers. We used an original type Ford air cleaner. We're over the bling. I don't know what everybody else thinks. I don't really care. But we finished off all the inside. This is all fabricated inner fender wells. You can see the power brake booster, the Willwood master cylinder. The firewall's all been smoothed. Everything is fabricated from scratch. This is all designed to keep as much air going through the intercooler or through the radiator condenser and the radiator as possible. The engine, from where you're sitting, it doesn't look that radical. You can see the fuel injection rails here. This was all done in California for us. The other interesting thing about this engine is the chassis, the way it was designed, it required a rear sump oil pan. Well, a Ford is a front sump engine. So what we did was we fabricated an oil pan and we used an external oil pump with a wet sump oil pan. In other words, there's an external two-stage oil pump that's used at a wet sump oil pan to control the oil. And that gave us the room to get the engine mounted far enough back and forward wherever we needed it without any trouble. So we're inside the car now, and back to what I was saying about trying to keep it OE feeling. I mean, the dash in this area is mostly stock. The air vents are correct. You see the wood grain that we retained. The dash pad was done for us by Just Dashes. The gauges, we used the original gauge holes, and Dakota Digital did some fantastic gauge work for us. They made custom gauges. They're analog gauges, but they're custom gauges to fit into this dash. We did put a tilt steering column in it. We put the smaller steering wheel on it. The console, you can see the wood grain, cup holders, air conditioning controls. Maybe you can see the green light, which is an LED light that we use and hide in the car, so that it illuminates the floor in addition to the headliner, stock headliner light there. This shifter is from a Mustang several years old. I'm not even sure the year of it, but we liked everything to stay OE look like it was made by Ford. It wasn't. It's considerably different and a lot nicer, I believe. We like the 80/20 loop carpet, just basic black upholstery. You can see all of the door panels and all of the stitching. It's very similar in style to what the original stuff would have been. And again, basically the roots of what we do, we build cars that they come out and resemble what they were supposed to be. I tell people all the time, if you want us to turn it into a new Corvette, it's a lot cheaper for you to go buy a new Corvette. And in the case of this car, it's a hell of a lot cheaper to go buy a new Corvette. So next thing, we'll take a look underneath it. But you can see when you look inside, I know that Ben's going to take some more pictures. You can see that the pedal pads are correct and the gas pedal looks to be correct. There's a lot of little things that are still Ford and still Brenda's mom and dad's car. That was kind of the thing. We didn't want to completely obliterate the idea of it being Brenda's mom and dad's car. That's the point. That she can go out in this and drive around and think about the times that she's had with her mom, and now they've just upgraded a little bit. Okay, so now we're underneath this car. This is where the car's the most dramatic. I mean, we really went over the top as far as modifying and painting and insulating and everything else. So we'll just start back here and take a look at it. I'm going to crouch down a little bit. It's a 9-inch Ford. All that was done by Morrison. As I said, it's a triangulated 4-link rear suspension. Car rides freaking incredible. I mean, it's got big Penske shocks in it. But if you start looking at some of the details in here, this is the fuel lines, both return and the line up and the line back. You can see the insulation, and in the framing that Clarence has made and in the paint shop is painted to hold all of the insulation in place. We went crazy with insulation on this car. When you're in it and you're driving it, it is absolutely tight. It's just amazing how tight this car is. Aluminum drive shaft. PST makes us this. Nothing spectacular. It's just cool looking and it's lightweight. This car's got a gear vendor in it. It works well, to be honest with you. It's a C6 with a gear vendor, pretty much a bulletproof deal. I mean, there's no computers, no nothing. It's old school stuff like the engine, but it's just absolutely bulletproof and it works really well. Hughes made us a specific converter for this engine and the camshaft that we're doing. The stainless steel exhaust, you see we use V-band clamps on everything in case it has to come apart. The engine, again, great big huge oil pan because the car's going to get driven and it's going to get driven fairly aggressively. See some of the other brake line components here that Clarence has made. Penske shocks in the front, Willwood brakes, giant Willwood brakes, 6-piston calipers, the, the, the sway bar in the front of the car, aluminum, giant bar to help control the roll in this big car. It's a heavy car, probably 4,200 pounds, somewhere in that neighborhood. Tubular headers. The tubular headers were actually made in Michigan. We didn't do these. We modified them and changed the collector because we didn't like what they had done. But you can see in the front all of the air damming. You can see all the venting for the coolers and stuff that I talked about with the air intake in the front. This is all very functional. It's designed to drive fast and drive far. I'm not sure I would drive it at all, but I know they're going to. The radiator hoses and all are stainless steel fabricated with silicone hoses. We really went above and beyond. We had no holds barred on this car. We could do whatever we wanted to do. The grille, you can get a better shot of what's going on in here. All of the core support was fabricated. Again, this was another Fairlane grille that we used to make this lower piece to allow more air in. I think you can get a better shot of these air intakes also. I mean, this is truly an air intake. It actually does do something, both sides. They weren't just for pretty. So like Morrison, Shott's pretty much our go-to right now with the wheels on the big jobs. This wheel is absolutely spectacular. Somebody did a fantastic job of picking this wheel out. I don't think I've seen a better looking wheel in a long time. The manufacturer Shott, they're not cheap. Nothing's cheap on this car, but the stuff that they build is artwork. It's really, really, really good stuff. It's right on the money. It's exactly what we asked for. No complaints whatsoever. They're worth the wait. You can still see some of the bumpers and how we fit the bumper to the car. We retain the marker light, which is everybody, why didn't you take the marker light out of it? Well, we wanted the marker light in it, just like we wanted the door handles and we wanted the roof rails and some of the other stuff that indicates that it is still a Ford and it's still a regular car that somebody once drove every day. So here's another shot wheel, another shot of the Shott wheel. This is a 20-inch diameter wheel. The front is a 19, and this is a 315/35/20. It's as much tire as we could fit, and we had to massage it to get that in there. But it's a pretty impressive shot from the back. I mean, the tire itself is probably about 11.5 inches wide. The wheel's 12 inches. But it looks really cool. It tucks up into the car nice, as you'll see when we take it outside. We are going to go for a ride in this car. I'm not going to drive this as aggressively as I have some of the others, mainly because I could probably afford the Corvette if something happened to it. I could afford the Plymouth if something happened to it. I can't afford this. This is out of my league. So I got to be real careful. And I don't want to get it dirty because we've just spent 2 days cleaning it. So we're going to go for a nice little ride. I'm going to step on it a little bit. I'm going to talk about how freaking quiet it is and how tight it is and how much fun it is to drive. And then we can get feedback from David and Brenda. We will conclude this video by going to their house morning after next, and we're going to deliver it. So hopefully, very hopefully, that Brenda is just blown away with this. She's not seen this car in probably a year or year and a half. So this is truly going to be shocking to her when we roll it out of the trailer. I hope it's a good shock, and I hope she's very happy to see it. And so does her husband. So next thing we're going to do is we'll put it down on the ground. We'll take it outside. We're going to go for a ride in it. I'll give you some feedback, some thoughts. You can hear how unbelievable it sounds. I mean, it is a conventional 509, I think, inch big block Ford. Started out life as a 460. We put a little stroke in it. It's got all good components. Aluminum heads, you can't tell because they're painted blue. Like I said, about 650 horsepower, somewhere in that neighborhood. Air conditioning works fabulous. It's got a nice automatic. I mean, this car, you could literally get in it and go cruise Woodward. The CNR radiator, as we talked about, it was a requirement that it idle and not heat up. So they've got monstrosity fans and all of the other cooling for the transmission, for the engine. Everything's got cooling in it. It's kind of like my road race car as far as all the cooling it has. But that was all just to make sure that when Brenda did go out cruising in it, she had a good time. So next thing, let's go for a ride. conditioning's on, which is really nice. And it's reasonably quiet in here considering that it's got a 3-inch exhaust and 650 horsepower. As I've said before with our cars, they're tight. They're really, really tight, and they're really well insulated. And the ride quality, because of the chassis that Morrison builds for us, is exceptional. It's really, really surprisingly good. We're just cruising through the industrial park right now. We're taking some fun pictures of the car. The air conditioning is a vintage air unit. It's really exceptionally good. I mean, a lot of that boils down to air and the radiator and how much air we have moving through the condenser. The interior on this car, we have our own in-house interior guy. We call him Stone Cold Larry. But he did a phenomenal job on this. The seat's exceptionally comfortable. Everything is done very, very well. The console is nice. The door panels are really nicely done. This thing's got enough camshaft that it just sits here and quivers real nice, just like it's supposed to. Again, they were all about old school, so this is it. The Coyote is a wonderful engine. It really makes great power and super reliable. You can burn a ton of RPM, but they just don't sound right.
Performance and restoration is what we do.